I'm going to do a little soldering on this circuit board. And so we could see this side of the board is blank, and this side of the board right here has foil on it. We're going to solder the wires of each component to the foil in the correct location. So that means that I'm going to take my circuit board, flip it over, and put the component through the blank side so the wires are on the foil side. Now, this is an LED. LEDs are directional. The short wire on the LED is going to be what we will just call our negative, and I am going to place that so that that short wire, a negative wire, is facing towards the bottom of the board. So this is method number one. And take this just like that, and I'm going to take my soldering iron, my solder, and I'm going to place my soldering iron against my wire and my board here, being careful not to put stupid amounts of heat into it. And you can see I'm chasing it all over the place, right? So I get that warm, get it nice and warm, and then what I'm going to do is pull that solder right through it. Okay, just like that. Now our solder flows towards heat, so anytime that I'm soldering, I'm going to kind of try to put the solder on the opposite side of where I've got my soldering iron. So it was a little bit of a pain in the butt to do that because I was chasing it all over the place. So this time I'm going to take this part and I'm going to set it up in that helping hand. That'll keep me from hopefully chasing it all over. I'm going to put my soldering iron here, just like I did with the last one. And get this component, the wire, and the copper foil hot. Feed my solder into it, just like that. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I haven't put so much solder on there that I have solder going between these two wires, because if I do, that's what's known as a solder bridge, and that's going to create a short circuit. Once I've done that, I can cut the wires off. Okay. The first one I didn't hold on to, and it went shooting off. All right, so I am wearing safety glasses, but you also may have heard it land who knows where. So when you're cutting, go ahead and hold on to that wire so you can control it. I actually prefer to place my component in my board like this, and then cut my wire off like that. Wire's been cut off. And take this and heat it up. Flow the solder just like that. And part of the reason that I prefer to do it that way is because I'm heating up less wire, which means I'm putting less heat into the board, and ultimately I really do want to avoid heating the board too much. So I've got the first one soldered in. Solder the second one in. Again, heat up the wire, heat up the copper, just like that. Okay, so let's take that out and take a look at it. So I actually flow much less solder into this one than this, because I have less heat, but I still have enough heat that my solder is nice and shiny. It's not gray. This is actually a little duller and grayer, so that tells me that this was colder than this. Okay, it reduces the chances of having that solder bridge, and it also just does a nicer job in general the way that looks. It's nicer, it's cleaner, it's flatter. So if I was putting this into a housing where I had limited room, this might actually stick up enough to be a little bit of a problem. So there's the two different ways that you can do that. Always stick your component in from the front so that you're soldering to the copper. And try to minimize the amount of solder and the heat that you're putting into it. And then as you continue to move along, just pay attention to what you're doing and that you're placing parts properly.